Israel became a nation in 1948 after fighting its war of independence from its Arab neighbors. Finally, there would be a safe haven for the expected influx of Jews from all over the world. The land itself was no bargain, for more than half of it was desert, receiving less than 4 inches of rain a year. Fresh water was clearly going to be a problem. There is an exhibit at the Ecosphere at the Weizmann Institute of Science that defines this problem. 372 hanging test tubes represent all the water in the world, which covers more than 2/3 of the Earth's surface. But wait, only 10 test tubes represent all the fresh water in the world, and of these, only one represents the water available for human use. There are only 3 possible sources of fresh water, namely rain, lakes and rivers, this is the Sea of Galilee, an underground water-bearing rock or soil called the aquifer, all of which is limited in Israel. But Ben-Gurion, the new president of the new state, had a vision for his nation.
Well, we're sitting overlooking the Thin Canyon, which is one of the largest, it is the largest canyon in Israel. And if you follow, you'll see the canyon is green because there's a water is coming up. If you really look down here, you'll see it's much greener. There's waterfalls, and this is on the original route that the Nabateans would take from the Mediterranean Sea through to Petra. And this is their path would go through here. There's a community here. You can hike up the route. You can see the caves that they lived in 2,500, 3,000 years ago. You can splash in the same natural waterbed. This is the highest form of the realization for his Judaism was to come up and come to the Negev. And if you look at Zionism and you look at it in the context of the whole movement of modern Zionism and rationalism and empirical study, which is exactly what you do, his period of Herzl. Who were his contemporaries, Darwin and the great scientific thinkers. It's no wonder, it's not by chance that Israel's founders were very tied up in science as a way to create the new Jew. It's not coincidence that 2 of the first 3 presidents were scientists, Chaim Weizmann and Ephraim Katzir. It's not by coincidence that David Ben-Gurion believes that science and technology would help the Jews conquer the land and create a new Jewish state. And that's why, in addition to the Ben-Gurion archives here, we actually have the Science of Israel archives here. And it's all tied together. Zionism was this belief that science, conquering the desert, using technology. He even talked about solar energy in the 50s because he believed that they could capture the power of the sun and make it work as energy. And that would be the way that that would be Israel's gift to the world. And that's really...
Israel emphasizes conservation for its national water supply. Water for crops is supplied by the innovative drip irrigation system that delivers water directly to the roots of plants through small tubes on the ground. This water is metered and paid for by farmers who know just how much each crop needs to thrive, like this date orchard. Not only has this system worked to feed Israelis, but agricultural exports is an important source of revenue for its farmers. Desert areas are increasing globally every year by an area equal to the state of Kansas. Israel is the only nation where the desert is receding. Israeli citizens consume half the amount of water used by the people of Southern California who live in a similar climate. This picture of the top of a toilet shows 2 buttons, a full flush and a half flush, depending on what you've left in the toilet bowl. In spite of conservation efforts, the water supply of Israel is developing problems. Water from the Jordan River that normally flows into the Dead Sea has been diverted for agriculture. Over the years, the Dead Sea, which is very salty and fun to swim in because of its buoyancy, has been evaporating, and the salty lake has been getting smaller. The saltwater aquifer below the lake is also getting smaller, and water from the nearby freshwater aquifer is seeping in to take its place. This fresh water is dissolving the rock-like salt bed under the lake, causing giant sinkholes to form. You can see them here. Scientists have also been working on ways to treat water so that it can be reused. Plants and layers of soil and gravel are natural filters for treating water. This is an amazing household water treatment center where you can recycle wash water and use it again.
Anyway, we have to treat the water because of environmental reasons.
Right.
Now, once we have this water already being treated, maybe we should invest a little bit more money and then reuse it. And this is the case with the Haifa Petrochemical Complex in Haifa. They are, for over 10 years, more than 10 years, they are already purifying and reusing such an amount of water. I'll tell you first in terms of cubic meters, it's 2.5 million cubic meters per year. This is the water consumption of a population of around 45,000 people.
The green scum on ponds comes from nitrate pollution.
The main reason for closing well is when the concentration of nitrogen is above the limit. And the limit is today in Israel 70 milligram per liter, and in Europe it's even lower, 50, and in the United States it's also about 50 milligram per liter. So that's the main reason. So one possibility is to mix wells. You take a well where there is no...
You dilute it.
Exactly. You mix it and you get something
Right.
which is...
Right.
But then you did it once, you did it twice,
After a while, so you still have to get rid of the nitrates somehow.
So you have to treat it. And there are several ways to do it. It can be physico-chemical, like ion exchange, it can be a membrane treatment, and it can also be biological. What does it mean biological? There are bacteria.
That will eat the stuff.
Exactly, that will use the nitrate as their electron acceptor, and then they will convert it to nitrogen gas, which is okay.
Since there is so much seawater available in the Mediterranean, how about taking the salt out of it? The Ashkelon Seawater Desalination Plant, the largest in the world, opened in 2005. It produces over 100 million gallons of fresh water a day and provides 5 to 6% of Israel's consumer water needs. The problem is it takes power to do this, which is another problem that I'm going to talk about a little later. Fish farming has been going on in Israel since the 1920s. Wastewater used for growing fish could later be used to irrigate crops. At first, the only fish they grew was carp for gefilte fish, but now other freshwater varieties are grown. In the past 10 years, a warm saltwater aquifer was discovered under the Negev. This water is perfect for growing a variety of saltwater fish, and research is being done to reuse water from one species to grow another. It turns out that this clean salt water from under the desert sand is particularly good for growing fish under crowded conditions that have no diseases. Scientists are also looking for plants that can endure stress. The rose of Jericho is an herb that curls up when dry to protect its seeds. Add a little water and it comes back to life. Scientists are looking for edible relatives of plants like this.
What we call stresses, so we talk drought and salinity and heat stress, so that eventually we hopefully will be able to grow crops in the desert or even in the cold places where they don't normally grow.
Scientists are experimenting with algae growing in these tanks. One kind might be used as a biofuel. You can get oil out of it and it might be used to run cars. Another kind is a good fish food and can keep salmon pink. This field has an experiment involving trees and corn and alternating crop.
Come up with some new insights into competition for water and nutrient in a rather complicated system as the one we are seeing.
One thing Israel has a lot of is sunshine. The roof of every home under 7 stories has a solar water heater. Pipes run through the black panels which absorb the heat from the sun. This heat is passed on to the water. Such heaters reduce the amount of electricity needed by almost 4%.
So Israel and Cyprus are the world leaders per capita of these water heaters. I mean, there, by the way, we are very good. Our problem is that we have laws that the government doesn't enforce. Every house should have one. Not a law that's not enforced, but even so, there are lots of them, and it saves energy. We have now defined a joint Germany and Spain with these feed-in tariffs, that if you, your home or small business, have your own means of generating electricity, the excess you can sell, and you can sell it not at the price of the electricity company, but at the price it costs you to generate it. So if you have solar cells, which are still expensive, you can sell them back for 2 shekels. Well, what you pay the electricity company is probably 49 cents, 49 agorot, 0.49.
Of course, one of the biggest challenges is to find a way to make affordable electricity from sunshine. One solution is this pedal experiment. Instead of large, expensive, inefficient solar panels, this dish focuses the sun's rays into a small, central, highly efficient photocell that converts the vastly increased amount of sunlight into enough electricity to make these practical for populated areas. A 6-mile square area in the desert in the Negev would provide enough electricity to serve 1 million people.
Making solar cells in the future will be based on using glass, just regular window glass, but that glass would have to be coated with some special coatings that are able to absorb the light and be able to generate electricity out of that light.
Right.
And in order to do that, there are certain elements that are needed.
What are those elements?
One of those elements, one of the key elements, are electrodes. In other words, the glass would have to be coated with, with a layer that allows the light to go through, which why it must be transparent. Okay, and it would also have to let the electrons flow out of the current. It has to let the current flow out of this film. Okay, so and when the light hits the active area, the active zone, it is able, the photons from the light are absorbed, and an electron is created. And that electron flows into one of the electrodes. Okay, and that is how solar cells work today. And one of the ideas that we have is how to make those electrodes in a simpler fashion, and in a cheap fashion, in an economical way.
The energy and fuels came originally from the sun, when plants use solar energy to build molecules. Coal is basically fossil plants. When a fuel burns, the fuel molecules react with oxygen, releasing heat and light. The heat of the reaction is put to work in furnaces.
The amount of heat, energy, that one has to use to heat up a furnace, most of it goes up in the chimney.
Right, that's true. That's true.
Well, with this material, less of it will go through the chimney.
There would be no science without scientists, and the Weizmann Institute's Clore Garden of Science is designed to capture the imagination of children. This park, full of oversized interactive exhibits of basic science and engineering, is the brainchild of Dr. Moshe Rishpan. America used the space race to inspire. Dr. Rishpan decided to build a place to play.
After Sputnik sometime, and I don't have to tell you about the fear in the Western world about being behind the Soviet Union.
And Dr. Rishpan is clearly still a child at heart.
The bigger one, there is a race now. I'm not musical, so I can't play any tune.
You can
see here now the focal point, and now it's easier for me to find it because there is some smoke.